Let's talk about the most chaotic, high-stakes intelligence-gathering mission known to humanity. It's not corporate espionage, and it's not cracking a top-secret government cipher. It's modern dating. On one end of the spectrum, we have this ancient, almost mythical concept of the soulmate, the idea that the universe has perfectly calibrated exactly one human being for you. On the other end, we have the defining romantic epidemic of our time, the situationship, that murky, undefined purgatory where you text every day, share your deepest traumas, but somehow are not officially together. And caught right in the middle of this battlefield is science. Neurobiology, psychology, and matchmaking algorithms are all desperately trying to act as our romantic GPS. But the real question we need to decode today is this: can science actually predict who you will love forever? Or are we just trying to mathematically solve a mystery that isn't meant to be solved?
That is the ultimate million-dollar question, isn't it? We are living in an era where we expect data to solve absolutely everything. We track our sleep cycles, we optimize our diets based on genetic testing, and now we want a lab report to tell us if the person sitting across from us at the coffee shop is a safe bet for the next 50 years. But treating love like a corporate risk assessment completely misunderstands the nature of the beast. Science is incredibly good at explaining the spark. It can map out the exact cocktail of dopamine, oxytocin, and norepinephrine that floods your brain when you meet someone and feel that instant electric connection. It can even explain why you like their natural scent, down to the major histocompatibility complex, or the MHC genes. We are literally sniffing out immune systems that complement our own. But predicting a biological spark is entirely different from predicting a roaring fire that survives decades of winter storms.
The immune system sniffing is always wild to think about. It's like our bodies are running a covert background check before we even say hello. But let's pause on that spark for a second, because if our biology is so highly evolved, and if we have all these subconscious radar systems designed to find a compatible mate, why are so many people currently trapped in situationships? If the biology works, why is the sociology failing so spectacularly? It feels like we have more data, more dating apps, and more access to potential partners than any generation in history, yet we are collectively terrified of putting a label on anything.
The paradox of choice is the main culprit there, combined with a modern allergic reaction to vulnerability. When you have a device in your pocket that presents you with a seemingly infinite catalog of human beings, your brain shifts from a mindset of connection to a mindset of consumerism. A situationship is essentially a free trial period that never expires. You get the benefits of intimacy, the dopamine hits of a good morning text, the physical connection, the shared inside jokes, without the terrifying legal and emotional liability of a long-term contract. It's love, but it is heavily risk-managed. The problem is, by trying to engineer all the risk out of a relationship, you also engineer out the depth. You cannot reach the soulmate level of connection if you are constantly keeping one foot out the door, just in case the algorithm serves up someone slightly better optimized for your lifestyle.
A free trial period that never expires. That is both a brilliant and entirely depressing way to put it. It's like we are trying to hack romance to avoid getting hurt. Which brings us right back to the science of it all. Because if people are terrified of making the wrong choice, it makes perfect sense that they would turn to data to save them. We see this with the rise of hyper-specific matchmaking algorithms and companies that claim they can analyze your personality traits, your attachment style, and even your DNA to find your perfect match. Are these algorithms actually cracking the code of long-term compatibility, or are they just selling us a highly sophisticated illusion of certainty?
Mostly the latter, though I wouldn't say they are completely useless. Algorithms are fantastic at filtering out deal breakers. They can match you with someone who shares your religious views, your desire for children, or your obsession with obscure 1970s science fiction movies. They measure similarity, and similarity is a great foundation for a friendship or a pleasant first date. But here is the critical intelligence failure of matchmaking algorithms. They measure who you are right now. They take a static snapshot of two individuals. But a lifelong relationship is not a static event. It's a dynamic, decades-long collision of two people who are constantly changing. Science can predict if you will get along today. It cannot predict how the two of you will negotiate a financial crisis in 10 years, or how you will support each other through a sudden illness, or how you will reinvent your dynamic when the kids leave the house. The algorithms are predicting the weather for the launch day, but they have absolutely no idea if the astronauts are going to drive each other crazy halfway to Mars.
That is a phenomenal analogy. You can have perfect launch conditions and still end up with a mutiny in deep space. But wait, what about the psychological studies that claim we actually can predict relationship success? I am thinking of the famous Love Labs, where researchers watch couples argue for 15 minutes and predict with terrifying accuracy whether they will eventually divorce. Does that not prove that science has at least figured out the formula for forever?
Ah, you are talking about the Gottman Institute research. That is a brilliant piece of behavioral intelligence. But notice what they are actually measuring. They are not measuring how much in love the couples are, or how perfectly their personalities align. They are measuring how they fight. They look for the four horsemen of the relationship apocalypse: criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. Contempt is the biggest predictor of divorce. A simple eye roll is a bigger red flag than a blazing, shouting argument.
An eye roll as a relationship threat level indicator. That is fascinating, and honestly, a little terrifying for anyone who tends to be sarcastic.
Exactly. But the key takeaway is that science in that context isn't predicting who you will love forever based on destiny. It is predicting who you will inevitably leave based on toxic behavioral patterns. It is always much easier to predict failure than to predict enduring success. Failure usually leaves a very clear forensic trail. Success is quiet. Success is the absence of contempt, combined with the daily, invisible effort of turning toward your partner instead of turning away. Science can flag the hazards on the road, but it cannot drive the car for you.
So science can measure compatibility, and it can identify behavioral red flags, but it fundamentally cannot measure commitment or resilience. It cannot measure the sheer force of will required to wake up next to the same person on a Tuesday morning, 20 years in, and actively choose to love them, even when they are chewing their cereal too loudly. Let's push the boundary here, though. Let's say, theoretically, that 20 years from now, neurotechnology and artificial intelligence become so advanced that they actually could predict eternal love with 99% accuracy. Imagine a world where a simple brain scan and a blood test could definitively tell you, without a doubt, that this specific person is your soulmate, and you will never separate. What happens to human romance in that scenario? Do we finally achieve romantic utopia, or do we lose something fundamental in the process?
We would absolutely lose the magic, and I think we would actually destroy the very concept of love in the process. Think about what makes any great story compelling. It is the stakes. It is the real possibility of failure. If you remove the risk from love, it ceases to be love. It becomes an administrative assignment. The beauty of choosing someone, of saying that you want to spend your life with them, lies entirely in the fact that you do not know the future. You are making a terrifying, irrational leap of faith. You are looking at all the statistical probabilities of heartbreak, looking at this incredibly flawed human being, and saying that you are going to bet all your chips on them anyway. If a machine guarantees the outcome, it is no longer a leap of faith. It is just following instructions. The uncertainty isn't a bug in the system of love. It is the core feature.
The uncertainty is the core feature. That really flips the whole script on how we view modern dating. We spend so much time trying to avoid the messy, unpredictable parts of human connection. We hide in situationships to avoid the risk of commitment, and we look to algorithms to guarantee our success. But in doing so, we are actively dodging the exact crucible that creates a soulmate. Because a soulmate isn't something you just stumble across, perfectly formed, like a lost set of keys. It sounds like a soulmate is something you forge over time, through the exact friction and uncertainty we keep trying to avoid.
Precisely. The concept of a soulmate as a predestined, perfect fit is actually quite a toxic myth. It implies that if things get difficult, Or if you have a massive argument, you must have chosen the wrong person and you need to start over. The reality is far more industrial. A soulmate is manufactured through years of shared history, inside jokes, mutual forgiveness, and surviving the absolute chaos of life together. Science can absolutely give you a head start. It can point you towards someone with compatible pheromones and aligning personality traits. It can give you the intelligence report on their psychological makeup and warn you about their avoidant attachment style. But science cannot do the heavy lifting for you. You have to build the soulmate yourself.
So, as we wrap up this intelligence briefing on the human heart, the verdict seems clear. The data can only take us so far. We can map the brain, sequence the DNA, and let the algorithms crunch the numbers on our hobbies and habits. We can decode the neurochemical explosion of a first kiss and understand the psychological armor of a modern situationship. But when it comes to the ultimate question of who we will love forever, science is forced to step back and let the sheer, unquantifiable human spirit take the wheel. It is a bit terrifying to realize that there is no mathematical formula to save us from the risk of a broken heart. But perhaps it is also deeply comforting to know that the greatest mystery of our lives remains beautifully unsolved. The next time you find yourself across the table from someone, wondering if they are your forever, remember that no machine can give you the answer. You are just going to have to take the leap, embrace the unknown, and write the rest of the report yourself.